As long as it's not in front of the. That's fine. No, it can go right.
That works.
As long as it's not in front of the finger.
What you're going to see is lots of pictures that I think will describe and help. Number one, it might even keep me on track, and boy, that's hard. I think some of you know that we were there for 8 days, left on February 9, and flew into Atlanta and then to Tucson. Thank Wife got off the plane. I got my first Mexican meal, and boy, that was really good too. But I promise you, by the Friday the 19th when we flew back, we could not wait to get to the Atlanta airport and get a big old greasy hamburger. Because there were some things, and I'll talk about that as we go through. This is actually coming into Douglas, Arizona, where we stayed, and the very first thing we did, that's the border. You don't think that's tall enough, let me know. That is about 18 feet, and I'll show you a lot more pictures of that. You can just keep on flipping there, because I think the best thing to do is talk through the... That sign is found a good bit around town. I have the one on, and it's, you've got the, this is talking more, this one talking more about God and the fact that really no human being is an illegal person. They may, we've got other definitions for illegal, but those, on Saturday morning, we gathered with a group. As you can see, some of the, a couple of the priests from the Catholic Church. These are some nuns who teach in one of the schools in there, but this was probably one of several of the most, what I would call, gut-wrenching experiences that we had. We gathered there in prayer. This, the fellow on the far corner, that is Mark Adams, who is the leader of Frontera de Cristo, who is the folks that hosted us and planned our whole trip. He's a Presbyterian minister from Clover, South Carolina, but he can speak Spanish better. He married a very attractive and bright Mexican lady about 15 years ago. He's been there 20 years. He's the one that organized the what was called Bishops on the Border, that brought together the Catholic, the Episcopal, Lutheran, who am I leaving out? Methodist, Presbyterians together. But this group is doing one of the most difficult things that we did while we were there. You can just sort of run, there's several there just with this same group, and then when in a moment we'll get to there were four of this group right here were some Mennonite students who were down from a college in Minnesota, I believe, but they joined in that. Dennis Tedder, there's the minister of First Pres, and Anderson was one of the people on there with us. I just took pictures of interesting sayings. We didn't cross the border crossed us. And that's dealing with the fact that the number of times from the 1800s up until almost now, that border has shifted umpteen times, the Gadsden Treaty and so forth. And then you can keep on.
All the way up to Wisconsin?
Huh? Yeah, how about that? How about that? Well, maybe they were talking about the Canadian, and then one of the people we met with the Border Patrol is just being transferred to Upper Maine. So he said, I'm going to have to now learn to speak French Canadian rather than Spanish. And he was talking about that. You can just keep on going there. Now, what this is, we went to a spot in the desert, and this group is there, and they will do this with smaller crosses and larger crosses. You'll see as we go through there. This is where someone has died, or they found a body of someone either on one side or the other side of the wall, where they had given out of water, food, heat, had set in and so forth. But this made it fairly real. You can flip through a couple of those. Some out of focus, and I couldn't figure out how to turn them at the machine. Sylvia saw me trying to figure out how to do that, but I'll show you in a moment. It'll show you. Now, that is Jose Luis Laurent. I can't remember this phone name. This is a group.
Sorry,
this is a native. This is only one of the few people that isn't an immigrant in the United States. He is one of the Indian tribes in that area and led this service. If you'll see on the ground, one of the places I got to star, you'll see a number of things there. Everybody there had some kind of like we learned in kindergarten, tambourines and things like that go along with his service. But this is the spot where they found Jose. And we had about an hour-long service. I say one of my claims to fame is that's a conch. I don't know if you've ever seen one where you take a saw off that tip of the conch, knock out that first hole, and then blow. You can see it if I happen to have one at home. So I was one of the. So it's like blowing a trumpet and anything else. But there were all sorts of things and smoke that would come up, and that in effect represents his spirit and this type thing. But again, that was just one of a few, and you'll see a lot more. You can just keep on flipping. There, Jose Lerma, right? That showed his date of death, 8/7/11. This are different things that go from the Indian, those, and then all of the rocks put in concrete, and a lot of the rocks that are around all come from right in that same area.
Those are the bodies there?
I'm sorry?
Do they remove the bodies, or are they buried?
No, that's not. Oh, yes. This is just spots. The bodies are not there. I've got some more. Maybe we'll look at it another time. That comes from Frontera de Cristo that actually gives a long explanation of that, and you'll see some more too. Go ahead. That I just left that one in there. That is probably it's one of the two old buildings in Douglas, Arizona. That's the Gadsden Hotel. I'm sure a name for the Gadsden Treaty, but you can't see it. I don't believe right in here. Some little chips out of those steps, and the truth or not truth is that Pancho Villa did stay there. They do know. It's like George Washington slept here. Pancho Villa came there, but the tradition is he rode his horse through the front door and started up the steps, and the horse's horseshoes knocked some dents out of that. They say really the time and the date isn't exactly right for all of that, but it still is a great story, I thought. It was a beautiful hotel, about 5 stories. That's one of 2 old buildings. Now, here's the wall again. In this case, I was trying to show that there actually were 2 walls, and what you can't see, there's a large drainage ditch, because when they get what they call the monsoon, which is the only time they get rain in that area, July, August, September, October, and it is with such, they have to have terrific drainage ditches. The rest of the time you see dry rivers and dry ditches and stuff. This was the wall before that 20-foot one you saw. This actually is some material that was Air Force surplus, but was what they used to put down for landing strips and airports and that type thing. It's a metal woven there, and that was well, I say original. The wall has changed a number of times, but that actually is 2 walls there. The disappointing thing that it used to be, before this wall went up and this drainage ditch went in, that they could actually come and family could talk to each other, determine which side of the border they were on, and communion and that type thing. there were some areas where it wasn't as thick, and so they actually could pass the elements through there. Go ahead. You can again. That's my thumb in front of the camera. Now that's what I was just describing to you. About 15 years ago, no, 10 years ago. This is actually the one now nearest. I was on the U.S. side when I took that picture. This one, Mexico, of course, would be on the opposite side of that. All of that is the United States. During that monsoon season, there were 5 people that were in that ditch when almost like we saw in California. A long, hard rush of water came through, took them down there, and actually at the border where the immigration authorities are for both countries, they also had a block. They had to stop the trash, and those 5 people got caught in that water and drowned there. Just another one of the, I guess, horrors we saw of the things that, again, same thing. There I am. And that is, this road you see, that is our van there. But this is probably every half mile is a Border Patrol car that has like a little, what we used to call paddy wagon looking on the back, where they arrest people. They have a place there. They actually do just initial paperwork there. Then they're transported to the big Border Patrol office there, where they're processed and detained, everything there. If you look right there, you see something on the ground. Another time, I used the phrase, I got the double swallowers, crying, to say the least. I looked down on the ground. And there was another one about 15 feet away that looked like an older girl. The kind that has little sparkles, like a Cinderella dancing shoe or something like that. But that just, you hear me now? Yeah, that hit me pretty strongly there, because you think about, again, illegal alien, or whatever word you want to use, and you can add, this road goes about 15 or 20 miles down behind the wall. What you can see, this mountain and a mountain range there, there's one on the opposite end. There's about a 25-mile stretch there, and it is a San Pedro area between each of those. When you get out about 15 miles, you'll start climbing the edge of the mountain. The wall follows it up most of the way, but then there's severe drop-off there as well. And instead you'll have cross, just not this, because what they're trying to do at that point is to stop vehicles, powerful vehicles like you see at the truck thing used to be Ballas, isn't it now? Bon Secure Center, when they have the big trucks with the things there. So that is used to stop there, because it is so high and hard and straight that it's really not an area that as many people individually try to come up with the border there. But again, that gives you a better perspective of the size of the wall. That is actually a square post, each one of them just turned with more in a diamond shape. And they, as you can see, are about inch and a half in between each one of those. That was about a 7, that is the shoe, on the ground. You can just kind of start flipping through, otherwise it would be. I'll show you that again in a minute. That is a boundary marker, And on the back side, it's got Mexico. So that literally, and those are about every, closer than a quarter of a mile apart, but they are, those are granite monuments about every quarter of a mile all along the border. This was our, we were amazing. We were hosted every night, or 5 nights, I guess, out of the 7 that we were there. We were hosted by a family of, in every case, they were part of the Lily of the Valley, which is we worshiped there. We were very worshipful that day. We worshiped first at First Christian Church of Douglas, and we met with a Border Patrol agent who is a member of that church. He was off duty so he could talk a lot more, so we found out some very interesting things, and I'll relate those later. I just kind of want you to. This is a family here that, again, all of these are U.S. citizens. They've been living in either Mexico or United States, or if they're not, then they either have work permits or something like that where they work on either side of the border in most cases. But if you can just keep flipping there. That's the fellow on the right, I'll tell you more about him. He's out of focus right now. That is their kitchen. No, go ahead. You can flip right. That's the kitchen. Refrigerator, stove, sink there. The room you saw us sitting in was like a family room, dining room, tables were put up, and then 2 very, very small bedrooms. The whole house would be about like this, these tables taken to the wall. So that had, you came in an entrance room, kitchen there, a bath, and 2 very, very, very small bedrooms there. But their hospitality is absolutely unbelievable. They, in some cases, the families would stand back while we ate. And we, being a couple of Southern gentlemen and others there, we kept trying, no, you said. They would just do that, like, nope. They would serve us, spend a lot of time answering questions we had, telling us about their lives and what they do and so forth like that. You can keep running. Now, that's First Presbyterian Church. You can just go by that. That's a smaller church, smaller in membership than us. Now, that was at one point. Now, that's the Lily of the Valley. The worship service there, and we saw this in the people the same way. This is all in Agua Puerta, Mexico. So we had gone from there, and this is 2 border cities separated by that wall, and the the immigration. That's one. They have those about every 25 or 30 miles. There's places that with immigration you can go back and forth across that. I felt like my feet were about a foot off the ground. These people were that happy they could not help but, yeah. Very first hymn they sang, and they knew we were going to be there, so they had both the Spanish and English on the walls like we do. I don't know where you got that idea of putting the scripture up on the wall. I'm walking too much on it.
You're fine.
This is the couple that we had dinner with afterwards. That again is the kitchen, that long table you see. Brick wall, that is most all of these are corrugated metal roofs. That one has a little insulation. We didn't see that but 1 or 2 times. It's usually just a metal roof. What is that? Probably 4 by 8 sheets of metal. no other roofing, no other thing. Once again, they same situation. They did sit down with us because they had a big enough table for everybody to be able to sit down, and they just, again, no ice. I never got a drink with ice in it. That has a lot to do with the freezer or refrigerator or that type thing. You can keep. This is all. This. Well, there we go. I can show you this. She's from Eastminster, which is where the Presbyterian office is. Husband, wife, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children. 2 bedrooms. The kitchen there. Step down. Everything is concrete floors. Step down into a living area, I suppose. Big enough for a sofa and a couple of chairs. 2, again, small bedrooms. But if you see the smiles on their faces, that was nothing. They are, I would say, on about 70% on the smiles when we go eat with people. Just amazing. Keep going. That is the outside of the house. And these are the people that brought us in and fed us. Keep going. That's the street they live on. That is that's pretty much a regular view. They are down the street. You're okay to stay there. The construction, you might see a 2-story stuccoed house. Needless to say, there's no such thing as my mind, words dropping out of my head. Zoning, there we go. Big house, and then you'd see a whole block of the houses would made that brick house I showed you a moment ago look very good compared to most of the houses there. It was much nearer. Now, what I was showing you there was that distance to that highway picture. Now this one, this is we on Monday started out about 3.5 mile walk. A lot of these people are walking 3,000 or 2,000 miles, 1,000 miles. Very interesting. Let me tell you why we've got this picture. This fellow ran what was called Credo, which is a drug and alcohol treatment center on the Mexican side. This fellow, as he said, he was old school. I said, and we said, well, what's old school? He said, cartel. And he said that it was 15 years ago. He got out of it. I mean, he was one of the leaders of one of the cartels. That's his favorite dog that walked with us there. There's only, and one of the things they're happy about in Sonora, the state that Agua Puerto is in, is that they only have one cartel, and they are very low key. Everything you hear with cartel deals with trying to get drugs across the border. The next state over has 7, and they basically draw the area, and no other cartel crosses it. All they're trying to do is get what they call their mules across the border, to the border, throw it over, somebody there picks it up, and off it goes. A lot to California in that area, but guess what the other place they see it? Atlanta and I-95. Coming right there. And all of Brownsville, Texas is now the big area that they've put more Border Patrol folks in. Now you want to hear another shocking thing we found out. Mexico, their #1 drug, and now we've just legalized it, is marijuana. It's not cocaine, and it's not meth. That's the stuff that's thrown over the fence. So we are responsible for that. Very, very little cocaine addiction. All of those I've told, drug and alcohol. Alcohol is a big problem. Drug is a big problem, but it's marijuana. We saw his place, and 8 or 10, 15 women's area and a men's area, all bunk beds, some our age and some young, teenage, and a little older. They're stayed until they can stay there until they get the treatment. They have a physician that comes in and works with them, that type of thing. This then deals with our system. Yes, he was an illegal immigrant in 1980 something. Lived in California, can get Social Security card. So you have to have a Social Security number to work. Pay taxes, but don't get returned. They pay in, but don't get back out. He worked for 30 some odd years, but guess where some of those years were? He is an honorably discharged U.S. Army, 6-year, served overseas. I asked him, I laughed, and he kind of chuckled, said, no. He said, I just was at a bar, one drink too long. They got him for DWI, realized he, after 30 some odd years, deported him. He's got 1 year left, and he'll be able to come back in to the United States and can then work to get citizenship. He'll come back in under a work permit. His family is all still in California. He's been down there 9 years. It's 10 years he had to be out of the country before he could go back in. Those are just little sidelines. Let's keep going. That's just part of our group. That gives you an idea. No, you can go forward right there. That gives you an idea. This is the U.S. side. That's the mountains I was telling you about. And this is on the other end from where I was talking earlier. These are small river. That is a major riverbed, dry as can be, as you can see, but that can get this deep during what they call monsoon, the only time they get rain. We walked that, and if anybody wants some sand, that's out of my shoes. That's how deep it was. It was like walking in Myrtle Beach in the sand, all through that. Now, that is the wall out, a little different, you see. You see those panels there. Now, keep flipping, and I'll show you. I want to show you some interesting things about the flooding area. Now, these are actually gates that can move up and down. The reason for that is when that water is coming through there, it can even knock this down by the strength. Again, anybody's been in a hurricane or seen water, power of water is a lot more than a wind or a tornado or anything else. They actually they raise these because no one could get under them because you would drown, because it is now this deep. And then I call it tides because I grew up in tide. As it goes higher or lower, they then can open and close those where rivers, dry rivers, become major rivers there. That's just a couple more of the folks out of our group. That is a cell phone that we found stuck up in a hole in the side of that riverbank. Batteries gone, anything that would, but that is probably something that a mule had and got ready to, I don't know who that handsome guy is there. Oh, he's got an Alabama cup. I better know who it is. But that's showing you some more. If you don't go the riverbed, that's what you walk through. Yeah, I know. I'm way. We've got about 4 weeks. We get this stuff. That gives you an idea of what you would walk through from Guatemala border, which is the bottom of Mexico, on up. Keep going. That's called the gathering tree. One of the things we expected to do when we were out there was, you heard me talk about refilling water barrels. Is one of the things that they do to try to at least provide some water. But that's a known gathering point. We found food, blankets, empty cans, foods, blankets, lots of empty water bottles, all of that. And you see there's so many little rivers and streams that run off. Keep going. You just keep kind of flip through that. That's about this mountain range here. I think that's the U.S. I'm sorry. The others you saw a moment ago are about 35 miles. You may have heard the story when General Pike got to where? Kansas or somewhere. He pointed to Pike's Peak and said, "We will sleep under that mountain tonight." And 6.5 weeks later, they got there. That's how. So if you can just imagine, if you're in the middle of Mexico and a cartel is after you, or you are making average wage, and that's still. We met one of those ladies that hosted us. Goes in at 6 o'clock at night and comes home about 2 a.m. because her husband's home then. You know what she makes in a week? $92 for 1 week's work, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That helps you understand. You got either drugs cartel looking for you, or you trying to support a family with that. She had 2 children. We don't do much better. Legal. And we remember lots of the early people, Mexican who came and worked crops all the way up California. Today, those people there are still paid maybe $5 an hour, well below minimum wage or anything else. You can keep rolling. That's the wall. Now, what I wanted you to see there, amazing, both sides of the wall, the Mexican artist on one side and the U.S. artist on the other side, began putting different things. The butterflies, of course, significant in the fact that people are trying to come into the United States. That's on the Mexican side there. The cars you see here are lining up. That's about 5 blocks from the immigration where you go through and get inspected. You can kind of just, run those. That shows you that same ditch we talked about earlier. That's the CVS in the U.S. You saw through that back of the building. You just keep flipping this one. This is a lady here from Colombia, grew up in Bogota. She and her husband, both college graduates and so forth. He's an accountant. She is in education. And they gave up their life there, and got U.S. citizenship. Came over, actually working through the Mennonites again. You hear I've used that much. We ran the Mennonites. Not many of them, but they do terrific missionary work along the border. They redid an old abandoned school building, and they now have about 40 or 50 children there. That they have 4-hour sessions, even high schools. 8 to 12 and 1 to 5. She's teaching there, and she was just showing us around that particular building. That we were eating down there. Keep on flipping that, as you can see. This lady right here, just the one you got to look at. She taught us. By the way, if anybody needs it, I'll have to charge. But we went there, and she taught us how to make tortillas. So. It's really very easy and don't take very long. But I want to tell you more about her in a minute. I don't even know what that one was. Keep on going. That was Valentine's night back at Cafe de Gusto, and I was a saxophone. Now, coffee.
And you're out of time.
I'm out of time. Cafe de Gusto, and I'll stop there. This is, I'll have to tell you more about that later, I suppose. This is a way, and we presented it at Presbyterian. We reported to Presbyterian. So happened they had a meeting Tuesday. We were there, where there are 100 coffee growers who are now part of that cooperative. That is, it comes to Agua Puerta, and that's that came from a Presbyterian church $20,000 mini grant, as they called it. They purchased the roaster. Coffee comes from Chiapas, which is the lowest. That's right down the Guatemalan border. Some from Veracruz and a number, but there are 100 I think 102 now. I think they said they added 2 the week we were leaving. They they grow it, do the initial dehusking, then they ship it by truck or determined by how close they are there. It is then mostly sold into the United States. They have several places, lots in Mexico, but what it's doing is paying them about the price, because what down in Chiapas, the big coffee companies going there and buying that up, majority of that at a very, very, very depressed price. They now get a normal price plus the co-op adds 15% to whatever price they're getting. So they in effect pay through donations and coffee shops and things like that that they've created. They now will pay 1,200 pounds of roasted coffee that they ship will feed a family coffee grower and his family for 1 year. $10 a bag. Yes, I've ordered a big bag for us, because when you get to the Robusto and you get it finely ground and dark roasted, it'll keep you up. But not me. I can drink stuff all the time. But I'll talk to you more about that. First Pres and Presbyterian churches all over the United States are buying X number of pounds of this as just part of their mission work. Goes back, supports 102 families down there. Therefore, there's some additional thing we'll look at some point in the future. Then, instead of trying to come to the United States and not make but $5 an hour, they now can stay at home in Chiapas, in Agua Puerto, Veracruz, and grow their coffee and earn a decent living for their family. Stop.
Yeah.
I'm about a third of the way through, so we'll
So,
a lot further than that.
do y'all want to keep going with this? Is that okay? No, not today. Not today, but next week.
Yeah, no, you got to come back after church.
We'll do that. We'll do that. No, let's pray. Lord God, thank you for this day. Thank you for just all the ministry that you're at work on, that Russell and the team got to have just a glimpse of. Thank you for the impact that it has made. Lord God, be with all of the people that are involved in this, on either side of the border, and all of their many stories. We know that you are very aware of each of them. Bless us as we learn more about this, as we are challenged, and as we learn and grow, and call us where we need to go. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
That's the book written about the coffee company called Just Coffee, Coffee with Conscience, which I think is very good.